My name's Jeremy Porter. I'm the CEO of Atlanta Motorsports Park, a motorsports country club where you can drive your car. And I'm a car enthusiast. I owned a car audio shop that did high-end installations. I want to tell you about John, Brettle, and Cartoons. These guys are like nothing I've ever seen. They've been working on my 69 Firebird. The car has come out unbelievable. The attention to detail, what these guys have done. They're building a Porsche Panamera interior in a 1969 Firebird with the vents and everything from the LED lights and the lights controls have been matched and removed from circuit boards just to make it match the aesthetic in the car. I can't tell you enough at how amazing the install and how advanced this is. This isn't cutting edge, it's bleeding edge for a better description. These guys are fantastic. Thanks for letting me tell you about them.
So we start off in the trunk. It is the one part of the car that is actually complete. There are several other little projects in the car that are complete, but the trunk is 100% done. Welded up steel amp rack. The basic premise of the whole car is it needs to be able to be physically taken back apart. And all of the panels that I build, all the equipment we put in, should be able to be removed fairly easily, minus the sub box, just because of how it's mounted and secured into the car. The reason for that is it needs to go back to the body shop to get more paint work done, and there's no windshield, no rear windows, that kind of thing in it. So I'll build the car, get it done 100%, and then just pull all the panels out really quick, including the amp rack. So we'll see here as we go through this how the amp rack was assembled and put together with the wiring, quick disconnect plugs, that kind of thing. The CNC router is right now cutting some 1/2-inch acrylic that's been laminated with some really pretty blue laminate that actually closely matches the paint of the car. I chose to do this for some interesting lighting effects. We'll get into that in a little bit. So here's some LEDs getting put onto the bottom of the acrylic to shine up towards the blue laminate. You see I have everything laid out, all of the marks where the metal amp rack sits, and then I've actually gone back and CNC channels for the wiring to clear underneath of the steel amp rack. And once it's all mounted, we've got some gaff tape just to make sure everything stays put. Here's some beauty shots. Notice the detail in the wiring, all the writing going in the correct direction. This is going to be a show car. This is going to hit the show scene circuit. He's already got shows lined up. So one of the issues I ran into when doing this, trying to put it together as a show vehicle, is I didn't want to have multiple different gauges of wires coming out of the fuse blocks. I wanted it to look very uniform. So it's all 4-gauge coming out, but I only needed 12 gauge, not even 12 gauge, but that's what I used to get into powering the tweaks that are in the vehicle. So here you can see Molex plugs, the power quick disconnect, and there's the fully assembled amp rack, fully wired, ready to be plugged in. And I painted the back edge of the clear acrylic at that front lip so we didn't get any bleed over. And I weighed it just to see, what are we at, 66 pounds. All wired, all the equipment, it's not too bad. Some more beauty shots. Customer was very happy with how this turned out, as far as it's not overpoweringly bright and gaudy. We do have a Stinger power supply in there, so when he goes to the shows, you can plug it in and play it. Nice and tidy. And all the connectors are mounted to the left and the right side of the car. So it's very easy to unplug it, unbolt the amp rack. It's bolted to the side of the enclosure, which is bolted to the car, and also there were 2 rib nuts put into the back floorboard just above the frame rail to hold 2 more machine screws. There's just some more lighting getting ready to happen here for the cover panel. Cover panel going over the top. It's obviously all JL equipment. Now I'm showing a technique of down firing some LEDs directly into a piece of acrylic from the bottom of a cover panel to keep everything really thin and low profile. And this is the technique that I use to cut the channels instead of putting it on the CNC. Anybody can do this with a handheld router. You're just making a template and a guide and marking out where you want to put everything and use template tape it down, and then you're gonna go ahead and route yourself a little channel, and then you connect all the channels so all your wiring has somewhere to go. And then when you put the panel on top, there's no gap. It just sits flat right on top of the acrylic. There's your clearance, nice and tight. There's the finished panel before the LEDs are put in. All the channels connected and everything lit. Gives it a really nice effect. I decided to do some blue down the middle just to do a little offset. Custom badges that I machined on the CNC, and then use some black model paint to fill to give a nice contrast. Side panels going in. The side panels are held in with I think they're 12-pound pull magnets. There's 4 on each in each corner of the piece, and they make direct contact. This is what I like to call an Easter egg. It's on the back side of the trunk. I needed something to cover up the bolts or the machine screws that are holding that rear panel on, and that's what I came up with. Here's a nice issue I ran into at the front of the car. Door boots that we ordered in. Factory, they have they're molded around a piece of metal to keep them nice and tight, and then they're screwed to the body. Well, the aftermarket ones don't have that, so when you put them in, they don't sit flush and stay flush. Most people would just snap them in there and let them not look pretty, like that. Or no, that's the one that's done. But you can see the machine screws coming in from, or going out from the inside of the car and the inside of the door, and they go into the aluminum that I tapped and hold it nice and tight. Porsche Panamera air vents, video screens laid out to kind of replicate that. The other thing I did to try to keep it along a newer modern style car is a system control. So this system control, all designed and machined by me and the CNC router, allows volume control of the overall system, allows sub-volume control, and it also allows rear speaker volume control, all in 3-stack knobs. So picture a BMW iDrive style system with, you know, the extra knobs underneath. That was the prototype. This is the finished product because it's much smaller. Once I realized it was working and doing what I needed it to do, there's the size difference, about 50% smaller. Allowed me to put it in the location where I wanted to put it, which is just in front of the armrest. Just some CAD drawings of the actual knobs that got machined out of acrylic. They were machined out of acrylic so that I could paint them and then sand the edges to allow light to come through, just to give a nice little added effect. And then the preset LED light for the JL piece is shining in to show off the gears. Attention to detail. So again, going with a Euro style interior, so I needed a Euro style light or light switch. So I found one, got it in, determined what the pins were, how they functioned, what they were going to do, and basically fed them out to external relays to turn the headlights, parking lights, and made sure the turn signals still work and all that. Then I also had to change out the LEDs to match the interior lighting. So the LEDs used to be red and green, and now they're blue, green, and I think it's a yellow. I left the yellow one in there. That's for the auto lights. But I made it serviceable 100%, and it functions just like a regular Euro switch, to where I designed a machine to housing that bolts to the car in the dash location there, and voila. Some other projects that I've included. Um, this is, from design, or from concept to design, to actual fabrication and completion. This is a table saw outfeed table and wood and plastic storage all in one, that I designed, cut all the steel, welded all the steel. The reason for steel is obviously it's not going anywhere. I've worked in shops with wooden table saws or wooden table saw outfeeds, and yeah, they just get kind of flimsy over time. To match with those, I also built 8 tables. They have casters on. There's no casters in this drawing. They have casters on them so they can be wheeled around the shop. So the technician can come in, build whatever they're building, and actually roll it out to the vehicle. And there it is, completed. And then I also did I did that same kind of setup initially in SketchUp to show how everything's going to fit together. This is our fab room. I designed and built this fab room. Had a little bit of help with one of the other guys, came up and helped me cut some steel at one point, but yeah, 99% of this was designed and built by me. And it was designed around needing to be able to handle 8 to 10 techs at a time. Because right now we currently have 10 techs that work with us. So I needed to make sure there's enough room for everybody to kind of get around and do what they needed to do. Back in the back, we have an upholstery room, a paint room, and on the right-hand side, that is a metal workshop. We'll have a little walkthrough here in a minute. There's the roll-around carts, or the fab stations, the outfeed table, metal chop saw, metal storage, small paint room, upholstery room. Again, there's 3 racks in there that I designed to hold rolls of upholstery, and that was the metal shop, welder, metal bandsaw, metal vices, and that kind of thing. This was something I had been working on for a while, trying to figure out a way to store door panels safely. I get tired of walking around the shop and seeing guys take a door panel off and just lean it up against the side of the car or the tire. Just doesn't look professional. So these are, I want to say they're, if I remember correctly, 4.5 or 5 inches tall. There's enough room to put a panel in there that thick. They're 40 inches wide, or 49 inches wide for the opening, and they're 30 inches deep. So plenty of room. This was a fun little project. Had a customer come in and want a lot of bass in his Lexus IS 250. I said, okay, no problem. And he said, I want a bandpass. I want a 4th order enclosure. I'm like, oh, okay. And I want to be able to get to my spare tire. What? All right, let me see what I can do. So, as you can see, multi-panel box, vented through the factory sub enclosure, the factory sub hole. That's the side profile of the box. And there it is in the car. The back end actually sits on the floor. The top is bolted to the rail behind the back seat, and there's your spare tire. And then there's your porthole. My name is John Brettle, and this is my submission for Trusted Tech 2019.
It is currently 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And I'm filming this on my front porch because it's too noisy at work. I don't go in on my days off because I have a family, and that's one of the things that I've been working on over the past year is spending more time with my family. So this is a huge deal to me. So I am staying up late, or early, yeah, staying up late to get this together. One of the things that I think over the past year I've really worked hard on in my personal life is trying to be more attentive to my family, to my wife, to my 4.5-year-old, and to my 15, almost 16-year-old stepson. Uh, you know, I spend a lot of time right here out on this front porch when I get home from work. Usually, my wife is sitting next to me, and we're listening to music, having a drink. I'm smoking a cigarette. We're just talking, and then my phone goes off. Somebody somewhere has a question about a car that they've seen me work on. She is very supportive of what I do, as I am of what she does, and she understands that it means a lot to me to help other people out. So we find that balance, and we've worked on that a lot over the past year. My biggest thing is I try really hard to wait until the 4.5-year-old goes to bed. I get home from work usually around 6:30 ish, and he's in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I get to spend a good hour to hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, depending on if he's in a really good mood and he took a nap at school. But then it's fair game at that point. You know, I love helping people. So you know, if somebody has a question, message me, call me. You know, I'm there, and I usually pick up unless I'm asleep. And when I'm asleep, the phone is on silent, so I'll find it in the morning, because one of the first things I do in the morning is come out here on this front porch and with a cup of coffee, smoke a cigarette, and I check my phone, see if I have any messages. You know, I really enjoy that aspect of what I do. And, you know, professionally, it's it's very fulfilling to know that I helped somebody else out. There are, you know, plenty of cars out there that I've worked on that some people have never touched, and then all of a sudden they get one in their bay, and they scramble. Oh, what am I going to do? You know, there's times that I've gotten a car in the bay and never worked on it. Usually I can figure it out, but you know, if I can't, and none of my coworkers, we're kind of stumped, then we call somebody. So you know, it's I help to help, and also, well, you know, sometimes you have to, you know, reach your hand out and ask for help. So professionally, over this past year, I've really pushed myself to become more of a teacher in that aspect, to really try to help more when I can, and I think I have, and it's led me to, you know, new ventures, which is, you know, this year at Knowledge Fest Dallas, I'll be speaking in a class with 2 other people about working with laser, and how it can be profitable to your business. Helping teach, you know, at Knowledge Fest is going to be awesome, and then I'm also going to be teaching out at Kingpin University. So you know, these are 2 things that I've really been pushing myself to do, is to try to evolve to not just be the guy in Facebook Messenger and on Facebook forums that's just randomly answering. Myself out there in front of people, which has always been hard for me. So I've been really pushing myself to try to be better at speaking in front of people. So yeah, I think I've evolved like that over the past year. Just just pushing myself to get to that, you know, to that spot where I feel comfortable to stand in front of a classroom of people. I've also pushed myself in learning more about CAD design. I definitely don't know everything, but I've really pushed to try to figure different things out, especially since getting laser personally at home. I use it a lot for work, but you know, having it at home allows me to design and then instantly, you know, go ahead and cut something or engrave something. So that's handy. But it's also helped me to develop a little bit more skill and technique and figure different things out in some of the software that I use to then relay that on to somebody else and help somebody else out. I'll post a picture of something I've done and somebody says, hey, how did you do that? And I did it in this software, and you know, there's a couple of buttons and things that you need to do, and where you figure it out. And then I realized that there's no way explaining it in words. So finally I said, you know what? Let me figure out how to do a screen capture video on the laptop, and I did that, and I posted that up in a couple of, you know, the forums and said, hey, look, this is something, you know, if you don't know how to do it, this is how I figured out to do it. And it might not be right for everybody, but that's just me. I enjoy I enjoy giving out information. So that's where I'm at. One of the other things that I feel that I'm pretty good at in the industry is let's call it staying neutral. I don't play favorites. I don't pick sides. Yes, I have my own particular opinions, beliefs, whatever, but I don't force them on somebody else. So, you know, solder versus crimp. I solder, I tape or heat shrink depending on the application. But I mean, I didn't used to do that. You know, I've been doing this for 27 years. When I first got into it, it was you know, bell caps or crimp caps or whatever you want to call them, and then, you know, butt connectors and T-tap. And I've just learned as I progressed throughout the years that in my opinion, soldering is the better way to go if it's done properly. But crimping a connection can also be done properly and is a really good connection as well. I just have a personal opinion that I like how a solder connection, when a bundle of wires is together, is nice and clean and neat, and you can harness wrap it, and you don't see any bulges from connectors. But that's not what I'm really referring to. It's more about how the industry seems divided, and not just on that subject, but just on so many other just random things that like people want to just argue about, or you know, this guy's better than this guy, and go here, don't go there, or buy from him, buy from, you know, and I'm just like, man, this is ridiculous. And I stay very neutral on that because, you know, I got into this industry because it was fun. And I'm pretty sure that probably 98%, 99% of us did that too. You know, we got into it because it was fun. You know, I can remember back in the day hanging out after work on Friday nights in the bay, because the local kids would come by and they want to check out the cool cars that you're working on, or the cool system you just put in, and they want to see, you know, so you just hang out, and it was a fun environment. And not lately, but over the past, I don't know, quite a few years, it just seems like it's still fun to me. But I read posts and see people talking, and it just seems so heated sometimes that it's like, hey guys, this is fun, right? This is like, we're supposed to be having fun. We're listening to music and we're tuning cars, and you know, we're making people happy, right? That's our end goal, is to make the client happy. So I don't know, I try to stay neutral and not pick sides, and that's all I have to say, really, because I don't know. I think everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but don't force it on somebody. That's it.
Steve Lifford here, MECP Master Tech here at Cartoons. John Brettle, I met him several years ago in the industry. We started some industry meetings when I got moved back up here from Florida, and we just kind of hit it off from there. And then one day I ended up working here at Cartoons with him. As far as this industry, I've been in it for about 25 years. Started out here in the Atlanta area doing this as a kid, and then moved up, did some things in Florida, and now back in Atlanta again. John Brettle's one of the most passionate guys I've met in the Atlanta area about this car audio industry. Every day he comes in, new ideas, fresh things to do, things like that. So it keeps us all on our toes, keeps us, fresh on the cutting edge, and we just kind of go from there.
Talk about John Brettle today and how his roles affected everybody in the store. First, I can tell you that he is one of the best. He's one of the greatest I've ever known. He can tune a car like nobody's business. If I want to know that it can be done correctly, I always go ask John Brettle. If I have a customer that comes in, he needs something that's done to the T with the most anal, retentive type techniques, John's the guy to go see. Not only that, he's also so anal retentive that it bleeds over to the rest of the bay. He goes and he makes sure that he makes sure that everybody's doing a uniform type of installation. We're doing it by the industry standards, and I think that he's the best trusted tech that you can have.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm one of the salespeople here at Cartoons of Atlanta. John is a valuable asset to the store in so many ways in terms of having him talk to customers. There's a lot of situations with some of these newer cars where things have gotten so complex. It takes a little more explanation to educate the customer on why there's certain things that we need to do and why we have to do them a certain way. He does a great job at being able to make it easy to understand and explain to the customer what we're trying to achieve in their car and what it takes to meet that goal. John has helped me close several deals just from being present and being a trusted source, because he's not a salesperson, he's a technician, so the customers just seem to be a little more receptive when he might say, hey, there's something additional we can do that'll take your system over the top. It's really helpful. John also is a wealth of knowledge with some of the cars that we work on. Some of them are a little more exotic or rare, be it Ferraris, Lamborghinis, things like that, as well as cars that you just don't see anymore, things from the 90s when he probably started. He still knows things that they don't even have on some of the websites that we go to for information. He's usually the first person I go to if there's something that I can't find this online, or hey, you can go down there and say, hey John, what's the weird thing I need to look at on it? And he's if he doesn't know, he'll make all the effort to either look it up or contact other people in the industry that he trusts, and we'll get that information back.
Hey, I'm Imran Alborno. I'm one of the partners at Cartoons Atlanta. John Brettle, what can I say about him? What can't I say about him? He's an incredible man, an incredible role model. He has been an immense amount of support for the whole team. Always the first to raise his hand when there's a problem. Always is there when we need him. We greatly appreciate everything he's done. He's become a great friend, a great mentor, a great man. Thank you, John.
So one of the things that I'm responsible for at Cartoons is being the bay manager. So that means that I'm ordering shop supplies, carpet, wood, plastics, keeping up with the nuts and the bolts. I mean, we use Fastenal, which is awesome. But I deal, you still have to deal with the guy that comes around and let him know, hey, we need to get some of these, or hey, do you have this part? Can we get this? And so that's me. And I've tried to simplify it as much as I can for myself and for the guys at work, because it's not always as simple as hey, Dave may come up to me and say, hey, I need one of these door panel clips, and we're out of them, and I say, okay, cool, sit it on my toolbox so I'll remember to look at it tomorrow because it's too late to order today. And then I come in the next day and he's put it on my toolbox, but I come in and I put my drink down or something and I push it out of the way, and then I don't see it and I forget about it. So anyway, so we have a whiteboard at work with I've written down all the different suppliers we get stuff from, and then a random one so that if they don't know who we get it from, they can just write stuff down. So that it helps me out during the day. And then I am also responsible for 85 to 95% of the CNC work that we do. I was the first one there to really learn and understand CAD. I taught myself as best I could, you know, watching YouTube videos and all this stuff. And we got a CNC machine and started doing stuff like the day we got it set up, like I'm in there trying to do stuff with it. And that was a lot of fun. But I've since started training some other guys because, you know, not everybody wants to do that or wants to try to learn that skill, but it is a skill to sit down and understand how CAD works and stuff like that. And so I've got a couple of guys that have started picking up on it and are getting better and better at it every day, which is awesome. Like I just enjoy the fact that I can train somebody else, or I can teach somebody else. One of the other things I do is obviously, you know, first and foremost, I'm an installer. So, you know, I have my own jobs, I have my own things to do on a daily basis, but I also tend to be probably called up front the most, up to the sales floor by the salesman to help quote a job or talk to a client, because they know that I'm going to be, one, I'm going to be fair, and two, that I'm going to really help explain to the client what's going to happen in their car, what's going to be done, and at the same time, I have a little bit of, we're going to pause because I don't know if the helicopter flying overhead is noticeable on the mic or not. But they also know that I will open up opportunities for an upsell. You know, just being able to explain things to them on a technical but not technical way so that they can understand what's going on. I don't know. I feel I'm pretty good at that. So they call me up front to give estimates and quotes and stuff. And I think they like how I give the quote, because it's not just I go up and tell you know, oh yeah, I can get that done. It's going to cost you $1,000. You know, no, it's going to be, yeah, I can do that for you. Let me break it down and see what kind of time frame we're looking at. And then I'll break it down and say, okay, this is something the vehicle is, you know, going to take this much time. Running the power wire is going to take this much time. Getting signal and integration is going to take this much time. Building an amp rack is going to take this much time. You know, installing the speakers, just bit by bit, I'll break it down for them, and I'll stand there and I'll go over it with them. And it takes 2 to 5 minutes, maybe, depending on how elaborate the system is. But what I've found out is that it just, boom, the customer instantly understands that, oh, I'm not spending $1,000. I'm spending X amount of money for your time that you're going to be spending taking care of my car. So I think the salesmen really, really appreciate that. I also tend to be a bridge, per se, between ownership and my fellow installers downstairs. You know, if they have an issue with something that's going on or whatever, or ownership has an issue with something maybe that's going on, they'll talk to me about it. And I've called a couple of, you know, just really small little meetings just to try to help get us, you know, kind of back on track. Because I think that once everybody's kind of let to do their own thing and go about their day, sometimes you just forget about the little stuff, and, you know, you just need to kind of be pointed back in the right direction. I do not micromanage, though. I don't walk around and you know, hey, you're doing that wrong, or hey, you need to do it like this, or anything like that. No, that would bug the hell out of me. I may walk around and ask if anybody needs help, and if somebody's not doing something, like they don't have a job, their job canceled, or maybe they finished early or something like that, they might come to me and say, hey, John, is there anything that I can help out with? Because there's always a project in the shop, you know, build a new table or, you know, whatever. But there might be somebody that's a little bit behind that needs some help, and I might say, hey, why don't you go help him out a little bit? So that's about the only managing of people that I really do, because we're all grown men. We all, you know, behave pretty nicely towards each other. So in the industry that I so love, because I don't know, I love this. Like I said, it's still fun for me. 27 plus years and it's still fun for me, and I think that's awesome. I really feel like I do everything I can to help anybody that needs help in the industry, to my ability, anyway, to my full extent anyway. I get messages all the time, or I get tagged in posts, and I try to respond to those in a timely manner, and and I try to help people. If they have a question about a car that I've done, boom, I help them out. I have no issue. I'm not, oh, I know how to do that, you don't, ha ha ha, I'm going to keep to myself. No, why? That's ridiculous. No, if you've never worked on a Maserati Gran Turismo, I'll walk you right through it, because I've done several, and people know that. I mean, I've gotten messages about that particular car so much that it actually pushed me to go ahead and make a slideshow video of the disassembly of one and the wiring of one, and building the dash kit in it and all that stuff. And I put it up on my YouTube channel and kept it private so that I could share the link to the industry forums for the guys to watch. And I've got several people, a lot of feedback from several people saying, hey, thanks, that helped a lot, and that kind of thing. And that was just from me constantly responding to people about the same car and typing the same thing, or telling them the same thing, and also helping me remember, because I mean, you work on how many cars, in a 27-year career, to remember everything there is about every single car, not going to happen. So I was fortunate, after being, messaged several times over this past year about how to put a radio on a Maserati Gran Turismo, that I had another one come in, probably my 10th or 11th that I've done in the past, what's it been, 10 years or something like that? I don't know. We just saw it on Facebook when I posted up the first one. But anyway, I had another one come in, so I was able to spend some time and actually take pictures of it as I was disassembling it, reassembling it, running the wires, doing everything that needed to be done. And then I spent some time out here in my evening workshop here on the front porch, putting together a slideshow on my phone and putting it up. So that's something that I really enjoy doing is helping out other industry guys. And I get phone calls at work. Hey, so and so gave me your number and said that you might be able to help me out with this. Have you I understand you've worked on this Bentley Continental, that kind of just strange stuff like that. But I love it. I love helping people, so that makes me feel good. And I don't know everything, so there's other people in the industry that I do trust, and I reach out to if there's something I don't know, and that just it's a good feeling to know that people can trust the information you're giving them, and when I don't know, I refer them to somebody that I think does know, and then I'll follow up with them later to say, hey, did you get that problem fixed, or did you figure that out? Did so and so help you out? Cool, great. What did y'all work out? Because then I want to know. That way I know. And it's not so I can take credit the next time. It's just so that I know. Like, I'm constantly learning. I learned something about 3 hours ago about doing a video. So I've put together several videos before, but this time I decided I wanted to do something a little bit nicer and, step my game up. And I was having problems in the software trying to get things to mesh right, and couldn't figure out who to reach out to. And I finally said, oh, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Dean Bayet. I hope I pronounced his last name correctly, even though he is also going for the same award. I figured he's a nice enough guy, and I'm a nice enough guy. We can get along well enough to talk through this, and he did. He helped me out like instantly, because I know he knows video editing, and I mean, I spent hours today trying to figure something out, and a couple messages back and forth, and then he called me. 10 minutes later, get off the phone with him. I spent another 10 minutes doing what he suggested, and boom, it worked. So I don't know. It's really cool to know people like that, and I'm glad that I can be one of those people for other guys in the industry.
Yeah, rolling. Rolling. Check 1, 2. Hi, my name is Ray. Ray West here from Tight Motoring, and here to talk about Mr. John Brettle and why I believe he is a top runner, top dog for Trust the Tech 2019. John has been a friend of mine for 10 years or so. I think we met with Mobile Solutions and probably at Audison training or EM training or something like that. And we met face-to-face, either one of those or, let's see here, awards ceremony for Mira. And since then, since about 2012, 2011 or so, been pretty good technical friends, I guess you'd say. So if I have questions about anything, I have a short list of people that I trust in order to be able to call on and see if they've been in the same situation or similar situation or have ideas and troubleshooting tips and things like that. So that list is fairly short, and I feel that John is the last remaining person on my list that is still deserving of this award so far. So he's helped me out through troubleshooting audio signals and crazy cars, because he seems to be always working on crazy cars. I've seen him do some pretty trick stuff in some very complicated vehicles and be successful at it. I just think he has enough experience and is techie enough to kind of find his way through huge hurdles and very difficult vehicles. And I've seen him called on quite a bit from other people in the industry. So I know I'm not the only one. And I do believe he has a list of a few of us that have done little videos for him for this little segment. And that list of people that also feel that John is deserving, I think should say something. I know the group, and I do believe we all are definitely tech geeks, and that's why I think John deserves this award, man. So, hi John, Brettle 2019, Trust the Tech.
You know, in an industry that's so connected now, and everybody's so full of information, and we all have so much available to us that everybody wants to help, it's difficult to find someone who stands out as the guy you can go to when you really need something. There are a handful I can think of, and John Brettle stands out as one of the best. I love knowing that I can call him anytime that I need help for another customer, even if it's a competitor in his area. I can say, do you have the answer for this? It's for this person. Absolutely, he always has it. This is one of our go-to guys, and he should be recognized for that.
I'm Ken Ward from Educar Training, and I'm a former co-owner of Musicar Northwest. When I started decades ago, we didn't have social media, and we all worked in silos, and we really didn't know anybody who worked at other shops, and if we did, we usually didn't trust them. So now we have social media, and that allows us to share technical information and advice really easily. Unfortunately, you do that a few times, and you start to learn who you can depend on and who you can't. You would think that all the information would be rock solid, but it turns out that 100% of the time, you can count on the information about 60% of the time. So that brings me to John Brettle. John has been a helper to our industry and to us at Musicar and to me at Educar over and over and over again. I remember the first time that we did a head unit replacement in a Maserati Quattroporte. And John hadn't actually done it, but he knew someone at his shop who had. And he shared with us the hardware that had been used and enough information that he was confident in that we could do the job much more quickly than we would have any other way. And in the years since then, I know myself while I was at Musicar and the crew since I left have replaced an awful lot of head units in Maserati Quattroportes using that information. Now I run Educar, and we have the Educar integration group on Facebook. And John is one of the top contributors, one of the top 2 or 3 contributors to our group in terms of vehicle information and also in terms of offering advice when a member of the group has a problem they're trying to sort out. So the award of trusted tech, as I understand it, is all about a technician who helps all of us advance and helps our industry advance, and who we can depend on to offer assistance. And John Brettle is uniquely qualified to be the trusted tech in 2019.
This video is in support for John Brettle for Trusted Tech 2019. I feel like that this guy is one of the front runners simply because he does everything he can to help anyone he can. He helps me. He's one of the very first people I call when I get in trouble. He's an innovator. He's a student. He's a teacher. He's a fabricator. He's a technician. And more importantly, he's just an all-around nice guy. I think the more people in our industry realize things that John has already realized, like staying neutral in situations and just being true to what he does, his craft, it's going to make the entire industry better. So this is my kind of go get him for John. Thanks, guys.
Hey, what's happening, Mobile Electronics Industry Awards voting panel? It's Chris McNulty from Driven Mobile Electronics. I wanted to take a few moments to endorse a guy that I've known and trusted for decades. The trust and admiration started long ago when John Brettle and I collaborated on this and this. It continues as recently as a month ago when he walked me through the process of building this. He is always willing to teach, but beyond that, he's eager to learn new things, making his growth a constant. Based on decades of knowing this guy and working with him side by side, you can trust me, John Brettle should be the trusted tech.
So, over the next year, I really want to push myself to do 2 things. One, I'm going to get MECP certified, advanced. I'm not a test taker, never been a test taker my entire life. And I never looked down on the MECP certification, but I just never really, I always said, I don't need that. I've been doing this for 27 years. Why do I need a piece of paper that says I know what I'm doing? And then I had a conversation with somebody and they said something about the awards. And they said, well, why do you do the awards? Well, because I enjoy it. I enjoy this. This is a reflection time. This is a time when I get to look back and, you know, see the things that I've done in the past year or two and go, probably should have figured that out or done that better or whatever. You know, just a self-reflection is always good. And also it's nice to have a piece of paper to show a client that, you know, hey, you know, I'm one of the top 50 or top 12 or I'm a top 5 trusted tech, whatever. Hopefully this year I'm the trusted tech, but we'll see. And then they said, well, you can do the same thing with the MECP certification. And I was like, oh yeah, I never really thought about it in that light, you know. So that motivated me. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna push myself to do it. We'll start with advanced. The people I've talked to have said that, oh, with your knowledge and stuff, you should be able to pass the advanced. So we'll give it a go. I'll study up a little bit and get it done, and maybe master after that. We'll see how hard the advanced is. Again, I'm not a test taker. So the other thing I want to do is I want to really seek out other opportunities for me to teach. That's where I see my career going. I'd like to be somebody that can just help others in a larger format. And one of the reasons I think I've never really done that before is I've always, I mean, I think everybody at some point in their life has a fear of talking in front of people. I mean, hell, I don't even like being on camera, but here I am. So I'm hoping that with the class that I'm going to be helping to teach at Knowledge Fest, and then the one in September at Kingpin, will help to really just get my feet wet and get me kind of going in the right direction to be able to be open to more avenues of doing stuff like that. Because, I mean, let's face it, you know, we're all getting old, and I'm not going to be able to get underneath the dash of a car or lug a subwoofer enclosure around or whatever for the rest of my life. So I'm trying to find a different avenue, and this is something that I really feel passionate about. And I really think it would be good for me to do. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, I guess, but I feel like I have enough learned knowledge that I can share on different topics. So that's where I kind of see myself going over the next years, is leaning more towards that avenue while I'm still doing the retail thing, and see how that works out. I'm hopeful. So Trusted Tech 2019. Why me? Because I honestly think that the Trusted Tech should be somebody that is, I can't say on call 24/7, because that's ridiculous. My wife is on call 24/7. She's a nurse, and I know what kind of stress that puts on people. But you should be available. You know, somebody messages you, and yeah, maybe it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and hey, you're sleeping, that's fine. But when you wake up in the morning and you see the message, you look at it and you read it and you help them out, and if you can, you know, just Trusted Tech is somebody that is always willing to be there for other people and help other people out in our industry, and you know what, and it doesn't matter. It could be fab advice, it could be wiring advice, it could be tuning advice, whatever it is. You have to be willing to just give it up. Like don't expect something in return. You know what I mean? Like just I don't know, because that's me. That's how I am. Always been a helpful person, and open to anybody. So I don't know. I've worked really hard, especially over this past year, to get to this point, and I feel I deserve it. I really do. So I thank you for your consideration. Thank you for sitting through this video, and I'll see you in Dallas.